Hey guys, I'm in Carr, Colorado this morning at Memphis Ranch with Greg. Greg and his wife run this 80 acre, it's a small ranch, but they sell their meat, Memphis meat, at farmers markets, right?
Good.
Yeah.
Memphis Meats is a company in California that produces synthetic meat.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
So we have to be
Memphis Ranch.
We're Memphis Ranch, and the brand we're promoting is the authentic American bison.
Authentic American bison. Gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, Memphis Meats is a no-no.
Yeah. I forgot about them. They're the ones that do the outer space stuff, aren't they? Or the lab grown?
I think it's all lab grown. Yeah.
Yeah. Morning guys, we're in Carr, Colorado at Memphis Ranch, and I'm standing here with Greg. He and his wife own the ranch, and they also have a bison meat brand called Authentic American Bison. And we just thought it would be fun to jump on here. Greg is going to be in our Meet My Neighbor series, which is our nonprofit's farm series. He's also part of a much larger documentary that we're working on. It's about a 2-year project, and it's covering ranches and reservations all across the U.S. It's a really fun project. But you guys raise bison, and that's a little bit different than cattle. Here out on the Front Range, you have a very fragile environment where it's kind of, some people would say it's desertous, but it's actually about the same environment that you'll find over 2/3 of the Earth's surface. And one of the problems that we've seen on the Front Range in recent years is that it's so dry that for organic matter to break down and return to the soil, it actually needs a lot of moisture. And bison and cattle and other ruminants in their second stomach, that's where you get a lot of that moisture that breaks down the plant organic matter and puts it back into the soil. So they're essential for soil health, pretty much. You can't really have good quality soil out here on the Front Range. It would just turn to desert if they were taken off of it permanently. So one of the things we try and do is educate whenever we have an opportunity, you guys, on why certain things are important, in this case ruminants, to our environment, and why you should be supporting your ranchers. And I know that in recent years it's kind of been a tough show with some of the things going on. So I thought, we'd talk to Greg a little bit, just starting off buffalo meat. Some people are going to the store buying what they think is bison meat, but it's not buffalo, or it's not bison.
Yeah, you really have to be careful on what you're buying, and I would look for something that actually says bison, because we have had reports that there is water buffalo being imported into the U.S. They're doing it under FDA regulations, and there's no country of origin, there's no inspection on any of that. And I've seen pictures of meat in the display case, and you'll have bison steaks with the USDA bug on it, and then ground buffalo, no bug, no anything. I'd be very wary of that.
Now, everything you guys do has to be USDA inspected, right?
That is a state of Colorado inspection or a regulation. I've talked to the health department when we were just getting set up many years ago, and it is a requirement that anything that I retail within Colorado must be federally inspected.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking with Ace over at Rocky Mountain Natural Meats, and just about how the USDA loans that came out for expansion of meat plants, but they weren't eligible because they considered bison exotic, and so they weren't eligible for any of those funds to expand. They've expanded anyway, but it's a growing industry. But it's interesting because these animals are so essential to our lands, and the only way to really bring them back is to make them economically sustainable through ranchers, which the ranchers have brought back 500,000 bison, where conservation efforts have brought back about 50,000. So there's a real concerted effort to bring the bison back, and that's a big part of it, is supporting the meat so that it's economically sustainable. But on that note, you told me something very interesting when you guys, because you're starting to sell online now.
Yes, we are.
You're working out the logistics to be able to ship anywhere in the country.
That's right.
And you were advertising on Google search, is that right?
Yes, we were. It was May of 20 where we were just starting to get set up on Google and trying to run some ads. And our ad got shut down. And we did get a response from Google, and I'll read this verbatim. I mean, some of the language they use, I couldn't believe what I was reading. I gather you are concerned about setting up a campaign that uses the word bison because all products are related to bison meats. The following is not allowed: content that promotes cruelty or gratuitous violence toward animals. Examples: promoting animal cruelty for entertainment purposes such as cock or dog fighting. Are you kidding? They go on. Content that may be interpreted as trading in or selling products derived from threatened or extinct species. Examples: sales of tigers, shark fins, elephant ivory, tiger skins, rhino horn, dolphin oil. I deeply apologize, as bison is an extinct species, and content related to such species is not allowed to be advertised, for it falls under the inappropriate content policy. We did appeal that, I think, 3 times, and finally someone came back and said, no, it's not extinct, and they allowed us to advertise.
Did you tell them to Google search it?
We referred them to the National Bison Association, and that there is a lot of people that are doing the same thing we're doing. I even reached out to Dave Carter and let him know what was going on. He had not heard of it in the past. We have not pursued a lot of advertising with Google in the recent months, but we're probably going to pursue that again. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think it's not so much Google. Of course, some of them will disagree with me on that. As it is, you've got these censors out there, these fact checkers, and they are not very well educated. What they don't realize is they think they're doing an animal rights thing by protecting the bison. What they don't realize is that these guys wouldn't exist today if it weren't for ranchers in the first place. And the fact that these animals are doing so much for our environment with rebuilding the soil in places like the Front Range here, where you have a very delicate environment that needs ruminants in order to thrive, they're actually hindering more than they are helping anything. And when you come out here and you see these animals, they're well taken care of. They're happy. They live a good life, and so it's just kind of ridiculous that they would take it that far. But I'm glad that Google ultimately figured it out for you, because that's just ridiculous. But that's the type of stuff that I feel like ranchers have been facing over the last couple of years. Is we've kind of let some of these thought processes get too far and unfiltered themselves, and then they end up causing bigger problems for movements like this, which is actually a very important movement for our environment. It's a very important movement for the bison species, and it certainly isn't extinct. There are 500,000 bison in the U.S. today, or more. There's not an official count on that, but I think it might be more now. And the goal right now is to get up to 1 million, I think.
It is.
And but there was another thing we had talked about that I wanted to share with them real quick, and that was, Colorado Pause has been kind of postponed at this point. I think a judge shut it down. But if something like that were to go through, just you heard the example of that email, but how, there are some laws that make sense, like offering animals some more space, but something like that Colorado Pause bill, what is the impact that it would have on a rancher like you in Colorado?
It would essentially shut us down.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no way that we could economically raise these.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of problems with that. I mean, we are very concerned about the health and well-being of our animals, but just from an economic standpoint, I couldn't afford to just feed these as large furry pets that are nice to look at, and it would ruin our industry. There's a lot of other processors in Colorado that it would also shut down. And I'd hesitate to say how much of an impact on the economy that would negatively impact.
But not just the economy, but when you look at the Front Range, and we were out at the Savory Institute the other day, and the USGS was out there, and they were discovering forages on the Savory Institute that you don't see anywhere else on the Front Range, all because of the bison, because of the grazing habits, because of how they're rebuilding the soil out there. They're a little further along than they've been around for a while, but they've done some great things out there. And so when you see that impact that these animals have and the necessity that they have on the environment, if they shut down the ranchers, what happens to them? Do they just stay out here and roam, or?
I certainly couldn't afford to feed them without having a viable business behind it.
Yeah.
What would happen? We can't just let them roam free. They're going to destroy a lot of other property, and
you'd probably get arrested for letting an exotic animal loose, right? Or an extinct one.
An extinct one, yeah.
So it's important that we continue to educate people on, these types of policies, what their actual impacts are, so that you can be aware of the things going on out there today, which is why our nonprofit has a slogan, defend the right to farm, is because there is actually a movement out there to try and shut down a lot of farmers and ranchers. And it often uses some catchy slogans and catchphrases. They make it sound like it's for the betterment of the animal, but it's really not. And what is going on in the bison industry is just exciting. It's the largest conservation effort in the U.S. right now, and it's huge. And that's bringing back a species that wasn't extinct. It was near extinct maybe 100 years ago or so.
In the late 1800s.
Late
they
1800s.
Were less than 1,000.
Yeah. But now they're a thriving species, and it's been an amazing story to hear about from you guys. So that was all I had, unless there was something else that I missed that we had talked about. You guys will be able to watch more about them in the upcoming documentary we're working on, as well as their Meet My Neighbor Farm series, which is made possible by you guys. So continue to donate so we can keep coming out to farms like this. Do you think it's important that we come out and tell your story?
Absolutely important. Yeah. Most people are not aware of the story of the bison. My wife and I do a lot of farmers markets. We get to interact with people face to face, and there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of people that really don't understand what bison are about or how nutritionally beneficial they are. But when we tell them, they buy in, and it supports us, and we can support efforts like Meet My Neighbor.
Yeah. So stay tuned. We'll have more for you guys in the future, but it was great talking with Greg, and keep an eye out for their videos coming out. And if you want some bison meat, are you able to ship yet, or?
Call us. We can ship. We don't have the website enabled to ship, but we're doing it.
All right. So give them a call. I'll put a link down below.
Thank you.
Yep. So that's just a